Hey guys, this video is sponsored by Ible. Make sure you guys download the app, follow me, and talk to me on there.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Blaire White Project. So, I have just gotten back home from a very fun trip to one of my favorite places in the country, Fort Bragg, California. No one's heard of it because it's a very small Northern California coastal town with like a population of like three. Like literally, it's probably like just past qualifying as a village. It's that small. But while I had an amazing time there, I just have to bitch about the airports and flying. I mean, a lot of people are right now. They're calling it like an airport disaster, like the worst like airline complication event in history because there was like thousands of flights canceled and just all types of crazy shit. Now, I'm very lucky my flights weren't canceled. However, I had a nightmare when it came to my luggage. So I checked a bag because if you're really that girl, you can't just carry on with a carry on, right? Like you can't just get through traveling and get through a trip, especially a vacation, only fitting stuff in a carry on. You need a checked bag, a purse, and a carry on. Like it's a lot. But anyways, so I checked my bag. I land at my destination and American Airlines, never flying American Airlines ever again. I've given them so many chances. They were the most lived out during COVID. They were just horrible customer service. It's a wrap. But anyways, I land and I get a text saying that my luggage is going to come at a later flight. I'm like, what? So my luggage is coming in on a separate flight than me later. And it didn't even say what time. I'm like, okay. I go to complain about it, or not complain, but just like ask like, what's the tea here? Like, when can I get my luggage? They didn't have an answer for me. Long story short, it took 9 hours for them to get my luggage. I landed at noon. I still like didn't have my luggage until 9 p.m. And even then, I had a 3.5 hour drive to my final destination with a rental car. So it was like, they ruined a day of my trip. Then I come back. I land yesterday back in Austin and the same thing happens. They lost my luggage on my departing flight and my arrival flight. On top of that, they gave me my suitcase broken with my belongings spilling out. Again, this is American Airlines. And I'm just saying this to let you guys know, like, don't fly American. At this point, they are Spirit. I would have rather gotten in a fist fight on Spirit because of then I would at least got some clout out of it because you know that'd be on World Star Hip Hop, you know that'd be on Libs of TikTok, and you know that it would have been everything seeing a Blaire White fight on an airplane, on Spirit. But I have my luggage now. They gave it to me a day late, 24 hours later. But it is what it is. I'm home. I had a great trip. Fort Bragg is amazing. I almost don't want to say that because I don't want people finding it. I want it to be like my own little hidden place. But I'm rambling. Bitch, we need to talk. So YouTube, and I'm going to speak not like your typical person mad at YouTube because I'm very appreciative of YouTube. My life was changed forever from YouTube. I love being a YouTuber. I love, that check every month from YouTube. Like I love YouTube. But YouTube tried it. I have to say that. They age restricted my last podcast episode, the full episode, which was on drag shows for kids. And I was obviously criticizing these shows as I often have and saying how they're inappropriate for kids. They age restricted it based on the show being shown. In the episode, I included a clip, but I censored the clip down, like whatever. And they still age restricted it. So let's get into the irony of that, right? Because she's ironic. So drag shows, at least the one in particular I was discussing on the episode, are not family friendly enough for YouTube, for which all my videos are already set to not for kids. So them adding an age restriction is just adding a separate restriction. They're saying that the drag show itself was so obscene that there has to be a second restriction on the content to make sure that no minors see the content. And yet these shows are apparently family friendly enough for kids to actually go in real life, right? Like, I'm sorry, if it's too heinous for YouTube, how is it okay for kids to go in real life? It's really just proving the point. Which is my point, is just slap an 18 plus requirement on these events and there would be none of this controversy, right? So I just find it ironic. It's like, if they're not family friendly enough for YouTube, how are they family friendly enough for kids to go to in real life? There was an interesting video at one of these drag for kids shows where if I believe it was Sarah Gonzalez of the Blaze was going around and asking people like, hey, is this appropriate for kids for you to bring your kids to? Like interviewing mothers at the shows who had their children with them. And all the moms were, first of all, just white liberals. Because I'm sorry, Black families ain't playing that. They're not taking their kid. Mexican families ain't playing that. I'm half Mexican. Like, they're not playing that. They're not taking their kids to go watch grown men in thongs simulate sex acts around their kids. Like, that's just not a thing. It's these white, lived out mothers. I'm sorry. It is what it is. You can be mad at it, or you can recognize the problem and change it. Pick one quickly. I'm in a weird mood today. I'm like a little bit jet lagged, and like honestly, like I ate like crap over the holiday, and so I'm feeling very bloated. Like I feel like my eyes are like not even open fully. Like, side note, when you get like a sodium bloat, like when you eat so much sodium that you wake up in the morning and like your eyes are swollen, like that's how I feel. So I'm like not living my best life right now. But regardless, I just think it's funny. And YouTube actually replied to my tweet where I brought light to them censoring my video, and I said, hey, what's up? And they replied, I didn't even tag them, but they replied and they said they're looking into it. So as of now, I don't have any resolution or answer at the end of this looking into it period. We'll see what that means, what happens from that. But either way, love you, YouTube, but let's just recognize, the hypocrisy here. Okay, so this is the biggest story of the week and one of the biggest stories of the year. Of course, Elon Musk ended the year with a bizang, releasing the Twitter files on COVID. Now, if you don't know, Elon has been dropping these Twitter files, which are, he's going into the back end of Twitter and seeing what things were in place and what things were like before he took ownership of the company. And what he's revealed is that the FBI had heavy involvement with Twitter, censoring people. That the FBI had heavy involvement with taking Trump off Twitter, with banning people, that conservatives specifically were placed on trending blacklists, name search blacklists, like every conspiracy theory about Twitter censorship that existed prior to Elon, taking ownership has been confirmed. Like literally all of it. I mean, I can't think of anything that's yet to be exposed. I mean, especially after this Twitter file with COVID. So let's get into that. So what it revealed was that the platform suppressed valid information from medical experts about COVID-19. And the main takeaway, let me bring this up, how Twitter rigged the COVID debate. It's really, really nuts, the things that were revealed in here, although it was all stuff I already knew, to be honest. If you're plugged in, you just knew. Like, if you know, you know. If you don't, I feel bad for you. So the long and short of it is they censored true but inconvenient information to U.S. government. They discredited doctors and experts who disagreed. I mean, yeah, they were banning hella doctors like Dr. Robert Malone, Peter McCullough. Several other doctors were banned during this time by suppressing ordinary users, including some sharing the CDC's own data. And I want to get into that because the whole premise of censoring information on COVID is so that people trust the experts and not trust people who aren't experts, right? Like that would be the rationale, that would be the logic for both the people censoring people and the people who are supporting the censorship. However, that was one of the biggest gags for me. And Instagram is still really bad about the COVID stuff. Like me even mentioning the word COVID in this is going to get a COVID warning on my Spotify account where my episodes are. It's going to get me a COVID warning on my Instagram stories when I swipe up to promote this episode on Instagram. It's a mess. They're still doing it. But the biggest thing is they will censor you even if you share the CDC's own stuff sometimes because they are that slow to keep up with it. It's like if you're going to ban people and censor people based on not complying with the CDC's take on things, maybe be quick enough to keep up with the CDC's take on things. Not that they should be trusted, by the way, because they got everything wrong from the start. Can we name an area where they weren't incorrect at one point on? Masks, transmissibility, many things about the vaccine, how it was spread in the first place, the origins. Half the country at one point, if not more, believed that you could contract it from outside at a distance, right? Just everything. And the worst part was that there were actually, in fact, doctors sounding the alarm on many of these things. You know, ivermectin was a huge, like, they were photoshopping pictures of Joe Rogan to make him look more sick because he dared to say that ivermectin was working for him, right? To talk to your doctor, but for me, it's working. Like, and supposedly, it was all about saving lives by censoring information that could have potentially saved lives. What's the logic here? And it's just scary because you see how it is in other countries, right? You know, we were really bad here in the States with the COVID stuff. I mean, I remember early on in the beginning, I never complied. I really never complied. Even during those first 2 weeks, the only level for which I complied was like, okay, we don't know how bad this is, so like I'm not gonna like hang out with people. But I wasn't like isolating like that. I was still going to the grocery store. I was still walking my dog. But there was a period where in the early stages where everyone thought you could catch it from outside, and I was walking my dog, not near anyone, and a cop pulled over, came within the 6 feet. There was a 6 feet rule in place at that time, came within the 6 feet without a mask to tell me that they were setting up fines for people who weren't wearing a mask. So to get indoors and get a mask on. And he wasn't wearing a mask. And he came within 6 feet. Like, it's really insane that like how they broke people's brains so badly. And what's amazing about the Twitter files here is they unveil so much about that. It's just really, really insane. It's like, here's this amazing headline. This came out this week. Regular exercise protects against fatal COVID, a new study shows. A new study shows that exercise is good for you. So we're going to censor people for spreading misinformation about COVID. We have to trust the experts who are just now finding out in 2022, almost 2023, almost 3 years after this virus, that exercise may be a good thing. I need to be evacuated from this planet. Okay, Elon, I know that, you know, you're working on this Twitter stuff and that's like your thing right now. And I greatly appreciate that. You know, I think this is great that you're exposing people at Twitter, but can you work on getting us to fucking Mars? Because I'm just not one for this world. I'm just not. Like, I'm ready to bounce. Not like that, but like, you know, take on a rocket ship and bounce. I am happy and healthy. I do not want to harm myself at all. I love my life. Let's just make that clear. But, you know, it's just crazy because you have during the panini, the pressed pancake, that you had Cosmopolitan running, you know, covers saying fat is healthy. So Cosmopolitan was allowed, corporate press was allowed to run articles saying that being fat is healthy during a pandemic that was killing mostly fat people. And then in 2023, they come out and be like, hey, exercise was actually a good thing. Well, good thing we closed all the gyms, right? Good thing we kept everyone sitting at home rather than going outside and burning a couple calories. Good thing we offered people cheeseburgers and milkshakes in exchange for getting a vaccine that we now know wasn't stopping transmission at all. Like, the entire pandemic, they're basically telling you, be a sedentary, fat person who does not move. Despite the fact that this virus is killing mostly fat people, we're going to close gyms. Like, literally, they did everything wrong. Like, did y'all not hear about, like, the quarantine 15 everyone was talking about during the pandemic? Government policy led people to gaining weight. On average, Americans gained weight during the pandemic. A pandemic that killed mostly fat people and for which obesity was like the main comorbidity. Like, in what world is anyone trusting the experts at this point? Like, in what world am I to trust these doctors who and these experts who literally cause people to gain weight during a pandemic that was deadly for fat people, and in 2023 come out and say, hey, exercise is a good thing? If you didn't realize from the very start that exercise was probably a good thing to boost your immune system, I don't know what to tell you. You know, it's so funny because obviously, like, I live in Austin and I moved here post lockdown, so I don't know how severe like the lockdowns and stuff were in Austin. I've heard that it was just like a month or two and it was never even like a full lockdown. It was like one of those like half-assed ones. And you know, Austin is a blue city. Austin is, you know, fairly lived out. You know, I don't meet a lot of libs because I feel like I'm radioactive to them, which is fine. You know what I mean? Like, I don't need to be friends with libs. In fact, I probably have a bias against becoming friends with libs. I mean, libs can prove me wrong and I can definitely be friends with them. Like, I'm willing to. Like, obviously I'm friends with Jacqueline Glenn. Like, it's fine. But like, just the way it's going these days, it's like, I don't know. That whole like being friends with someone despite having political differences thing is like so over. And it's like, I didn't cause it, but it's like, it is what it is. But what I was saying about the COVID stuff here in Austin, it's like, I don't know how severe it was, but like, you still see, I would say like 20% of people wearing masks here. And it's like, wow, you know, when you see people walking around outside with a mask on, when you see like families with like 6-year-old kids and like they're all wearing masks, it's like, wow, like people's brains really are broken, especially when you see them wearing cloth masks, right? Like, if you're wearing a cloth mask in 2023, we're basically in 2023 now. Like, even if you were scared of COVID, which if you're so scared of COVID, like, I don't know, I feel bad for you. Like, let's get it together. Let's get it together. But even if you're that person, surely you know cloth masks, which half the time you weren't even able to wear on planes because they weren't effective. It's like, why are you wearing a cloth mask? If you're wearing a cloth mask in 2023, you're proving that you're just part of a cult. That's all it is. You're just part of a cult. You're not worried. And it's like, you don't want to make any judgments on like when you see kids wearing it, because you're like, I don't know, maybe like the kid's immunocompromised, you know, whatever. But all I know is I didn't see anyone really wearing masks before the pandemic, right? Like, not even trying to make a racial comment here, but like the place you would see masks is like sometimes in like nail salons, obviously because you're breathing in like particles and you don't want to do that. Like, you'd see that like Asians wearing masks sometimes like in Chinatown and stuff because they're just more like conscious of viruses in China. That's more of a culture there. Obviously they have the zero COVID policy, but like, you didn't just see families wearing masks. So it's like, yeah, you want to be like, oh, maybe they're immunocompromised. You want to give them that leg up, but it's like, okay, then why didn't I see that before? I don't know. It's just sad what they've done to people. And even in this picture of this article, right, it's like a bitch wearing a mask, working out outside with no one around. What are you doing? Are you dumb? Is there a fight outside? Oh my God, there's like literally, you probably can't hear it over the mic, but there's like a whole brawl happening outside. I film on 6th Street in Austin and it's like, you know, the streets get hot here. So like, wow, there's like a fight. Anyways. I can't with that. And then you have Elon Musk claims ex-Twitter employees ran a Fauci fan club Slack channel. Like, yeah, no wonder they were censoring people. They ran a fucking Fauci fan club. And that's really the issue, right? It's like, okay, people in Silicon Valley are like generally going to be more lived out. Like, that's like whatever. But it's a problem when these are the people running social media and letting their biases get involved. How is anyone a fan of Fauci? Like, I don't understand. It's like, for everything he says, you can find a clip completely contradicting what he says. Like, he was fully on deck with lockdowns, and now there's clips of him being like, I never supported lockdowns. Like, dude, get the fuck out. No one elected you. For you to have ran the country for as long as you did and like take Trump's place as president, like, which I blame Trump for, right? It's like, no one elected you. No one voted for you. Like, I never supported lockdowns, except you did. Except any state that tried to pull out of lockdown, you were shaming publicly on the national stage. Like, get out of here. I never want to see him again. I'm so over him. Like, is no one gonna like care? I can't. Anyways. And now time for my favorite segment of the show, reacting to woke TikToks. So I don't know what it is. And I've talked about this for years because unfortunately, this has been a thing for years. I don't know what it is with trans women thinking, proclaiming, stating, even questioning their ability to have a period, to menstruate, to have that time of the month. You have Dylan Mulvaney playing with tampons and then having, you know, this like sob story like TikTok where Dylan's like, you know, saying, you know, I only did it to give to women and no, I don't menstruate. Okay, well, you had fun blurring that line and writing that line of misinformation, literal misinformation, and playing with tampons in every video, which is, it was just creepy. Like, if nothing else, it's creepy. And you're allowed to say shit is creepy. Sometimes it's not about if it's right or wrong, or sometimes it's just like, ew. Sometimes it's like, if we're playing with tampons on camera, you're ew, you're yuck. But anyways, this has been a thing for a while. I did a video back in 2019 where I was just like, I had found like some Facebook group of trans women, and it was like all these delusional, insane posts about how they're getting their period. And it was all like old cross-dresser people, really. Like, it wasn't trans women. Like, it was no like, this is what people don't understand. There was a period of time where trans women were completely different than what you're seeing now. And they're still out there. They're just getting drowned out. Like, there was a wonderful grace period from like, like, I don't know, where trans women were just different. And I long for those times where like, I used to be part of like Facebook groups of trans women like online where they would make fun of posts like that. They would like find a trans woman saying that she's getting her period, and like all the T-girls in the thing would be like, look at this literal dude thinking he's getting a period because he popped estrogen once. And it's like, they used to look down on that. And now it's like, you have to celebrate that. Any like weirdo being like, I'm getting a period, you have to be like, oh my God, I support you. It's like, no, I don't. And it's just weird. And I don't like that it gives ammunition to actual transphobes. I don't like that it gives ammunition to people to call us crazy. It's already crazy we're trans. You want to add like delusional shit like I get my period on top of it. Anyways, we're going to react to these because I'm just rambling at this point. But I don't get a period and I'm okay with that. So this is one going viral.
Why? Stop. Why is this thing not hot? I swear to God, if anyone says welcome to womanhood, I'm gonna lose my shit.
I'm just gonna take a sip and a deep breath before I even say anything. Shout out to Dylan Mulvaney for creating an entire lane of delusional, strange, sexist dudes claiming to be trans women, claiming to be women, right? Not that I don't think Dylan isn't actually trans, but I'll just say this. I actually do believe Dylan is trans. Dylan just got FFS. I know people who know Dylan, and I do believe Dylan is trans. That has nothing to do with Dylan being sexist. That has nothing to do with Dylan making a mockery of trans issues and of women. And so I can believe Dylan's really trans while also saying that Dylan's behavior is 100% the behavior of like an obnoxious, sexist, like 15-year-old dude making fun of women. And look at this lane Dylan's created. Now you have this person who's the definition of that, peeling over, pretending to get cramps, like making like, I have to say that like the whole, and I've actually had this thought for a while now, and I'm just going to be very like candid right now. I'm so over the trans conversation. I am so over trans discourse. I have been involved in it and in the thick of it for as long as my channel has been a thing. So 6, 7 years. I think we're going on 7. Yeah, 7. And it's like, it only escalates and gets worse. It only gets more embarrassing. It only, like a magnet, like sucks in just the worst, stupidest people to be a part of it. And I mean that on all sides, because I open my phone, for which I follow a lot of conservatives. I follow a lot of liberals. I follow a lot of trans people. I follow a lot of detrans people. I follow TERFs. I follow all these people because it's part of my job to be in tune with every side of the conversation. And I have to say, everyone's stupid. I don't care if that makes me sound like some radical centrist. I don't care. Everyone can be wrong. Everyone's wrong. Even people who are right about some shit are just wrong about everything else. It's like, you have trans people who only know how to double down. You have woke white libs who only know how to double down on trans shit, even when it's clearly like wrong, like trans women in women's prisons. You have conservatives who have really no nuanced understanding of the issue at all and like are assholes about it, right? Like I get it from, I often say I am too trans for the right and too right for the trans, or too like right wing for the left, right? So it's like, I get it from both ends every day. I'm not even doing OnlyFans. And I'm getting it from both ends every day. It's like asshole conservatives and freaks on the left. I get it from both ends, right? And it's just like, it's so rare to see anyone have like even a drop of like sanity in this conversation. It drives people crazy and people get more and more radical. It's one of those issues that keeps radicalizing people further and further into whatever their side is. And it's just like, I'm just so over it. Like, I literally long for a time when people didn't even really understand what trans was. There was a wonderful grace period at the very beginning of my transition, and a lot of trans people talk about this, where there was just enough like bleeding heart liberalism to where like people weren't like assholes about the trans thing. Like if someone knew you were trans, it was more of like, oh, okay, well, you're a person to me. Now, people who would have been that like, oh, well, you know what? You're just a person to me and I support you and I love you. Now those people don't even want to give that inch because of how extreme things have gotten on the other side. When people were like largely ignorant about trans stuff, that was the best time. First of all, people weren't like clocking you as trans ever. Like people didn't know what to look for to clock someone. So you really were like, it was easier to integrate into society and just pass as a normal person. And people weren't like always like worked up about the recent trans story, like the recent trans story. And it's like, I understand that I participate in that. And I understand that I talk about trans stuff all the time. However, it's my lane. I'm transgender. I can't talk about it. Second of all, there has to be someone that's not like a lived out freak talking about these issues from that perspective. There has to be someone. I know there's a few others. There's Buck Angel. There is Marcus Dibbs. There is Ariel, who's not trans, but often talks about trans issues from a perspective that I agree with. But it's just like, until there's enough people that I have like been able to pass this baton on to, I have to talk about trans stuff. There has to be some sort of voice combating the freaks on the left, but it's like, I'm getting tired. That's the long and short of it. I'm getting tired. I'm getting tired of like things just getting crazier, of more and more trans people talking about, I just got my period, of like more and more conservatives being like, all trans people are pedophiles. It's like, I can't take it. I can't. And it's so crazy because when I see like someone on the right being shitty about trans stuff, it's like, I don't even feel like I have a leg up to even like go after them the way I want to, because it's like, how can I, when over here it's like trans rapists placed in women's prison? This is a more pressing issue than like me being like, hey, like you're talking shit about trans adults. It's like, why are you upset? It's like, you can't. So the long and short of it is, a bitch is getting tired. I've been doing this for 7 years. I'm not going to stop anytime soon, but I'm just saying like, maybe in 2023, I'll like not stop talking about trans stuff, but just like doing a little less, because it's like honestly taking a toll on my mental. I'm not even trying to sound dramatic, but it's like, it's just an exhausting topic. It's so exhausting. Especially when it's like in my real life, it's like I'm trans, but I'm just like existing. I'm just like a normal person. It's like I have friends. I have like, you know, my home life. I have like, but it's like online, it's like trans TM. It's like, it's so infuriating. Anyways, here's the next one.
So I just had to call out sick from work because I've had these awful, unexplainable stomach cramps all day. And I really, really hope that I'm sick.
Look at the
because,
smile.
You know, I've been on hormones for a year, and I've heard people say that this is around the time when they start getting, like, period cramps. And if I have to deal with this once a month, I am going to
You
be
love it. You're smiling.
so upset. I don't have 12 sick days a year. I'm just going to have to power through. That sounds awful.
First of all, is this Elijah Schaefer? Because this looks like Elijah Schaefer. This looks like Elijah Schaefer just went on a rant about his period cramps. You're not having period cramps. Take a shit. Sounds like you're backed up. Maybe you have a hernia. Maybe, I don't know why you're experiencing this pain, if you even are. Because really you're not. I mean, you're not. But this is so gross. The smile on this person's face the entire time. Oh my. This person literally said with, if you're listening rather than watching, I'm smiling very big right now. He said, I'm really upset. That was what this person did. You're not having period cramps. You don't have a uterus. If you're bleeding, call 911. If you're bleeding, something's going on if you're bleeding, but other than that, no. Like, I often say this, it's like the trans community used to be the type where like they would make fun of like the trans girls who would be like, oh, my feet are shrinking, 6 months on hormones. Your feet don't shrink from taking hormones. It's like that used to be like a thing. It's like, look at these girls thinking their feet are shrinking. Ew. Like, what a freak. And now it's like, I just got my period. No, you didn't. And first of all, why is it so important to you? Like, oftentimes these people will say like, why is it so important for women to gatekeep periods? It's like, they're not. It's just about maintaining like a grip on reality. And you're lucky people are even calling you out at all on this. Because I wouldn't want to live in a world where I'm just stating something so fucking delusional and no one has it within themselves to correct me. I would not want to live in a world where I'm like, the sky's green. And everyone's just like patting my head about it. No, please correct me. If I am stupid enough to think that I am cramping from a year on hormones, correct me. Not having a period is one of the few things that like I'm actually like fairly grateful for in terms of being trans. Like, there's not a ton of perks, right? Like, to being trans, that's one of them. That's one of them. And it must just suck to be so like insecure in who and what you are, to need validation so badly that you have to convince yourself you're having a period. And not only that, you need other people to believe it as well. Like, I used to think this was just like almost a meme. Like, people don't really think they get their periods when they're trans women, right? They do. They do. And it's very sad. What a mockery. Another thing, like, how are you even comfortable coming on camera looking like this? I'm not trying to be mean. But like, a year on hormones, you would have never caught me coming on camera looking like this if gender dysphoria was something I was actually feeling, which it was. So it's like, I don't understand these trans people. I feel like a granny tranny being like, these kids today, these young trannies today. But it's different It's so different. I don't relate to it at all. Ugh. What is this? Like, genuinely, it's like, I'm not going to pretend as if I don't understand women's point when they see content like this and they're like, oh, this is sexist. It's like, here's the thing I will say. As someone who has been on estrogen for 7 years, nearly a decade, it does make you more emotional. This is a fact. However, it makes you more emotional, like, just overall. You don't get a monthly period. You do not get a more monthly period. And you know what? It's not that it makes you more emotional. What I have found is that estrogen just increases the range for which your emotions can reach. Like, it's not as if every day you're crying on estrogen. It's just that, like, when you're sad, you are capable of getting, like, a little more sad than before. When you're in distress, you're capable of being a little more mentally distressed. Like, you're just capable of a wider range of emotions. It's not that you're just always crying or always, like, whatever. Like, maybe I would get sad watching something on television, like a sad commercial about, like, an abused dog or something. Maybe, like, before I transitioned, I would have maybe been like, oh my God, that's so sad. And now I might, like, start to be like, oh my God, that's like sad. Like, I might, like, bubble up a little bit. That's what I mean. But, like, this person talking about I have a cycle and once a month and just smiling like I got emotional. Like, it's just, you sound like a weirdo. It's just weird. And I really don't care. Like, people love to act like it's a bigger deal me being, like, mean to these people or mean about these people talking than it is for these people making a mockery of trans people and causing more hate towards us. That's a bigger deal to me than me being mean to these people. And it's like, am I being mean or am I disagreeing with what they're saying? I know I have, like, resting bitch face and I sound like a valley girl and I talk shit, but it's like, that doesn't mean I'm, like, a mean like, people are so stupid. Anyways, done with these period TikTokers. It's like, you don't get a period if you're a trans woman, period. Great way to end the segment. Period. Is transabled a real thing? Definition explored amid concerning trend. Yeah, concerning to say the least. Like, I can't. Why is this even in my list of articles to react to? Like, I can't. So if I didn't list enough reasons why I am, like, so over the trans conversation, here's another one. Here's another one. Okay, I'll just read. Several disabled people worldwide can express the mental and physical difficulties they face following their life-changing injuries, but it does not seem to affect those who are transabled. Some people have come forward sharing that they choose to be disabled and live their lives hooked to a machine rather than experience a functional life. So there's people that blind themselves, people that remove limbs, cut off their finger. Like, people that paralyze themselves and they're calling this transabled. I did a video on this a couple years ago and now it's resurging again. It's more articles now. And this is what I mean. Like, by the way, it's hard not to see the comparison between transabled and trans children. And let me explain that. So, I consider it a form of self-disabling to sterilize yourself. I consider that a form of this. And when these doctors are sterilizing these kids, it's hard not to see a parallel there. They are removing a huge functionality of life. They are removing a huge aspect of living a normal life by sterilizing themselves before they can properly consent. I don't believe that people who go to have their limbs removed or blinded can consent to that because clearly something's wrong. I think if you're getting a surgery that removes functions of life and functionality, this is where you get into doctor abuse. This is where you get into like the Hippocratic Oath. This is where you get into do no harm as a doctor. It's like, let's do no harm, okay? If someone wants to get plastic surgery to look like the opposite gender, hi, I did that. And like, you're not actually like purposely botching yourself, purposely hurting yourself. Like, it's one thing. But it's like, if you're removing your limbs, I can't. So, you know, I feel bad for these people. Moving on. Oh, God. Why is this even in my deck? This is the second article in a row where I'm like, do I need a new producer? Just kidding. But for real, why is this in my deck? Politico contributor dragged for adding Meghan Markle to list of narcissists, calling her abusive trash. Other people on the list are Elon Musk, Donald Trump, Sam Bankman-Fried, Ye West, and Elizabeth Holmes. There are a few things that when I hear the word, my brain just turns off, just tunes out. NFTs, Bitcoin, crypto, Meghan Markle, or anything to do with the royals. I'm sorry. Like, I'm so American. I know people get so annoyed by this, but like, I'm so American that it's like, I don't care about like really much of anything happening in England. I'm sorry if that sounds mean, but it's like, we want a war so that I don't have to care about the royals. Scratch that. I care about what's happening in England. I care about news stories out of England. Okay. I care about British people. I don't care about the royals. I don't care. And like the weird, like cult-like fascination, like that some Americans have with the royals is like, what are you doing? Like, what country are you in? Like, we want a war. We don't have to care about the world. We don't have to suck Meghan Markle's dick. Like, we don't have to care. Like, it's not that deep, but like, it's deep. Like, I remember back on my birthday, I had like tweeted something like, it's my birthday, blah, blah, blah. And one of my fans just, replied and said, happy birthday, queen. And someone responded to that and said, this was right around when the queen died. And someone responded to that and was like, love Blaire, but seems like a really inappropriate time to call her queen while we're experiencing the loss of Queen. It's like, that it was like the most annoying thing I've ever seen on Twitter. So like that whole like worship of the royals thing, I don't like it. It's like this weird psychological thing. It's like, really? Like, you're so cucked for like government and control and like people above you that like you have to have the government and a whole separate royal family. Like, it's 2 layers of like people above you. It's like, but that's the American in me. It's like, I don't even want like one body governing me. I definitely don't want 2. It's like, what, I have to have like the White House and then like what, the white family or something? Like, I don't understand. Like, I don't get it. And it's like, those like basics who host like royal watch parties, like, oh, the royal wedding's airing, oh, this and that, like, oh my God, new Meghan Markle interview, party at my house with wine. Ew. Like, get a life. Moving on. So the non-binary person Matt Walsh sparred with on Dr. Phil just got a brand deal with Abercrombie and Fitch. Now, I'm never going to hate on someone's bag. Shout out to you if you got, that big of a gig. However, I just have to say, it was story time. I went into Aritzia the other day, which was a Canadian clothing store, but they have like some stores in the States here. And I went in there and I was blown away because every picture in the store, like of models, was a trans model. Like, I think almost every single one. And the entirety of the clothing available in the store, with the exception of like one small section, was like all straight up men's clothes. Like, it's a women's clothing store, and straight up all the clothing were like thick, like manly blazers and like thick, like male structured pants. And like, I was like, why is everything becoming non-binary? Like, it was just so weird. I was like, I feel like I'm in a men's clothing store. Like, what are they doing to women? They're replacing, in this women's clothing store, all the pictures with biological males, and it's all like male clothing in the store. Like, what are they doing? I don't know. But of course, it's a Canadian brand. Of course. Kim Kardashian defends reaction to Balenciaga scandal. I couldn't have been more clear. Now, you actually could have been much more clear. Let's get into that. So if you remember, Kim Kardashian responded to people asking her to speak up on Balenciaga because she is a huge face that is and has worked with Balenciaga, been involved with many campaigns. Like I said in my video about Balenciaga, like Kim is kind of synonymous with Balenciaga. Like I think of Kim when I think of Balenciaga. That's how often she works with them, how often she rocks their stuff, and how often she promotes them. Now, Kim said that cancel culture is why people were going after Balenciaga. Talk about not having an understanding of what cancel culture is and isn't. Talk about, like I said in my video, like opposing pedophilia is not cancel culture. In fact, any culture that does not vehemently oppose it doesn't even have the right to be a culture. Like that's how egregious the Balenciaga stuff was. And for Kim to just chalk it up to cancel culture, it's like, no. Like I get that like she got a lot of heat and she may have gotten a disproportional amount of heat like in relation to what she actually did and didn't do here. But, cause, you know, there was plenty of celebrities that didn't speak up. At least she called it gross. I will give her that. At least she said it was gross publicly. But she remained in a position where she is free to work with them in the future, which is the problem. Like, I don't know. Any celebrity I think that gets caught dead working with Balenciaga at this point is like, what are you doing? I know someone who just came from Japan, like flew in and like was on vacation in Japan. And he said that he was getting Balenciaga items for like $500 a piece, which is like, you know, Balenciaga is like thousands. So it's like all on sale because like no one is trying to buy Balenciaga. So I don't know if that's happening in the States, but it is what it is. I do feel for Kim Kardashian. I will say that. Like all of Kanye's recent actions, like that just must not be easy as the mother to his children. That cannot be easy. So, you know, I don't hate Kim, but girl, you sounded dumb as shit talking about this is cancel culture. No, it's not. No, it's not. And I agree you got a lot of heat, but that would have come with anyone. Any celebrity who spoke up but then half spoke up, they're going to get heat. You should have just said no more Balenciaga. And that would have been great, actually. I mean, I would have respected that to the fullest, but I don't know. All right. Whoopi Goldberg forced to apologize again for repeating Holocaust slur. So if you'll remember, back in February, Whoopi was suspended from The View for making a statement about the Holocaust and how it had nothing to do with race, I believe was the comment. She said it didn't have anything to do with race. And she recently doubled down and had to apologize again on The View for saying the same thing. And it's like, Whoopi, how the fuck are you going to change your last name to Goldberg and then fix your mouth to like try to lighten the blow of the Holocaust? Like, I don't understand. Did you miss the like 5th grade history lesson that included Hitler wanting to create the perfect master race? And then you want to sit here and fix your mouth again to say it had nothing to do with race? Like, are you joking? But it makes sense, right? Because Whoopi subscribes to the ideology that places Black people as victims and white people as oppressors under any and all circumstances. That is Whoopi's basic ideology. And so in her eyes, Jewish just is white people. So the idea that this could have possibly been racial violence or the Holocaust could have had anything with race doesn't make sense to her. Because in her mind, white people oppress Black people. It's that black and white, not to make a pun here, it's that black and white to her. So the idea of white people being oppressed for their race, in her mind, white people being oppressed for their race is like not possible. It's like telling her the sky is green because that's the ideology she subscribed to. Which is dumb as shit. It's just stupid. And again, like, maybe we need to start calling Whoopi Smith. Like, how are you going to take a Jewish last name and then be talking about the Holocaust had nothing to do with race? Like, girl, just shut up. There's something to the art of shutting up about stuff you don't know about. So, for example, when I do my podcast, I have a producer give me these stories and I have to approve or deny what stories I want to talk about. Whenever it's a story I don't have much to say on, or I don't know about, or I'm not educated to the fullest about, or I say no. I'm not going to have anything intelligent to say about that because I don't, like, if you give me an article about like jet fuel, the hell am I going to say about that? So Whoopi, if you're too stupid to know like what the Holocaust was and wasn't, don't talk about the Holocaust. Especially when you know it's a very emotionally charged topic for people. Like, are you dumb? Like, I can't. What was the one today that I was like, no, I don't want to talk about that? It was something to do with like Chinese labor and like just something about in China that like on the surface I had an opinion about, but I don't know that much about. So I'm like, what am I going to say other than like herder, that's bad. Like I would like to be able to say something other than that. So Whoopi, don't talk about stuff you don't know about. It's really that effing simple. Female Iranian chess player competes at tournament without wearing hijab. Real bravery, people. I'm not being sarcastic. Like, the way women in this country be feeling like wearing like a PUSSY hat is like bravery, is the way that like women in Iran dare to not wear a hijab and then actually get thrown in jail, killed, like real shit. Stuff that in America we have no perception of. And I often, like, here's the thing. One of the big blessings about my job is that you never know who's watching. And there are people in the Middle East who watch me. How do they do it? I don't know. I know that in a lot of those countries, it's like, you're going to have to figure out a very roundabout way to watch a Blaire White video. But they do. And so one of the biggest blessings is that I'm able to hear stories directly from Middle Eastern countries for which everyone is oppressed. Men, women, LGBT, everyone. And it really gives you perspective about a lot of the dumb ish that we complain about in this country. And it's not that we don't have issues, but there is real oppression in the world, right? Like, the most harrowing emails I get are from LGBT people in countries like Iran, you know? And it's like, it makes you very quickly understand that like debating about like pronouns and like bathrooms and like transports is like, for what? Because you get thrown off a building in some place. It's like, and another, it's like, people don't know that in Iran in particular, it's like trans, the entire concept of trans is like a cure for gay people. Like, gay people get sex changes so they can just be straight. Funny, a little bit of that might be happening in this country. Every detransitioner I've talked to has said they felt like they were escaping being gay. But anyways, the point is, like, you know, these Middle Eastern countries, women don't have rights. Women are property. Gay people don't have rights. Gay people are criminals. At least 24 in Iran face execution for involvement in protests. At least 24 people arrested in Iran face execution for their involvement in the anti-government protests that swept the nation as demonstrators demand women's rights. Iranian daily news outlet Etemad reportedly posted a list Friday compiled by a judicial authority that accused 25 demonstrators of waging war against God, a charge that 23-year-old, I'm not going to pronounce his name, Mohsen Shakari, was found guilty before he was hung Thursday. That's what happens in these countries. First of all, lists are never good, right? Oppressive regimes and oppressive forces love creating lists. Remember that. I'm not going to try to compare anything happening in the States right now because it'd be inappropriate, but lists, we don't put people on lists. You know, for whatever reason, I have always been best friends with refugees. I'm not trying to sound fucking funny. Refugees and people who like escape like third world countries, I vibe with the most. My best friend JC escaped Cuba. Michael escaped Ukraine. One of my good friends, Tova, escaped Ghana, Africa. And one of the things that she would often tell me is like how crazy it is to live somewhere where like you are jailed or killed for being gay. And people here have no concept of that. And people who claim to fight for LGBT rights never fix their mouth to even talk about that. And it's like, I don't know. This is why one of the things that I have always been proud of is that I've put a spotlight on my channel. Like I've done videos talking about being gay and the issues that women face in the Middle East. And I will always do that. In fact, I really feel like one of my callings in life is doing something bigger to help people like that. Like I got to think of something, but you know, it's really messed up. And I'm thankful that I live in a country where we don't execute protesters. All right. Libs of TikTok shows her face for the first time in epic Tucker Carlson interview. And of course, people are going crazy. I believe her name's Chaya. The Libs are going crazy on Twitter, calling her ugly. And it's like, she's not ugly. But are we pretending like all y'all aren't ugly? Are we pretending like the Libs that she puts on her Twitter are not always like complete like freaks? Like who are y'all to call anyone ugly? I think it's good she showed her face. You know, I think that it's kind of brave TBH because she gets doxxed like hell. And then one of the stories is about how, or we'll play it. Ron DeSantis helped her out in this moment.
Is there anyone who reached out to you, who supported you, who took your
Yes.
side?
First of all, you.
Please.
I really appreciate it, Tucker.
That's an easy one.
I will say this. When I was doxxed, someone from Ron DeSantis' team called me.
Really?
Yes. And she said, the governor wanted me to give you a message. He said, if you don't feel safe, or you or your family, if you need a place to go, to hide, to stay, you can come to the governor's mansion.
What?
He said, we have a guest house for you, and you can come and stay as long as you need.
The governor of Florida did.
Yes. I can't even, I was almost in tears. Like, the governor of Florida, like he has nothing but like.
And you're living in California.
To deal with. I'm living in California, and he took time out of his, I'm assuming, extremely busy schedule.
You'd think. Yeah.
I mean, he's the governor of Florida, and to send someone to call me to make sure I'm safe.
That's crazy.
Unreal.
And invite you to stay at his house?
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
Well, I'm so glad I asked that question.
Yeah. It was incredible. I don't even have the words for it. Like, so grateful.
So what people don't understand is like, first of all, people pretend like Libs of TikTok is such an evil account when all Libs of TikTok does is post videos that lefties themselves post. I would say 99% of the time, she doesn't even put her opinion in the tweet. Sometimes she does, right? But most of the time, it's literally just captioning what's happening in the video and the video. And they could not be more fucking upset. And it's like, how are you upset at your own words and your own side's opinions? I don't understand. People don't really understand how scary being doxxed is, by the way. And how useless the authorities are when it comes to being doxxed. So I am someone who has been doxxed every single place I've lived other than my current place, and I am so grateful and happy for that. But I'm someone that prior to that have been doxxed every single place I've lived. Now, when you are doxxed, the first thing you want to do, obviously, is go to the police. So when Jessica and Eve doxxed me, I went to the police, and I was told that they could do nothing for me, basically, And I asked, like, okay, so if you guys get a call and someone tries to swap me, can I be placed on some sort of list so that you guys don't come? Because clearly this is the move for people online, and I'm at risk of this right now. And people die from getting swatted. Like, it's a very serious, disgusting thing. That spoiler is almost always exclusively a leftist tactic. Why? We know why. And they said no, that I couldn't be placed on any lists, that like, even if I got swatted, they still have to do it. So, you know, we can't normalize like doxing and swatting people. It's like, it's such a thing now. It's so big and it's so scary as a public figure. But like, I'm glad Libs TikTok is here. I'm glad she's doing her thing. I think that her account is invaluable. Also, you know, a lot of the TikToks I react to are from her account. So shout out to her for all the content. Listen, you guys, I had a lot of fun today. I love you guys. Make sure you follow me on Twitter and Instagram. Follow this podcast channel, follow my main channel. And I cannot wait for the new year. I have a lot of stuff planned. I have a lot of sort of new directions I want to take my career and my channel into. So stay tuned for that. And I will see you guys in the next episode. Bye, guys.